Well, I want to give a silver update and give you a basic rundown on what the hell the demons are going to have planned for sacrificing the human race on the altar here pretty soon. Actually, I don't want to play the doom and gloom, but they got something up their sleeve, and when things break, it happens all at once. Just look back in history. That's reality, right? It's not actually negative thinking. Now, I do want to avoid negative thinking because negative thinking makes you defeat it before you even get started. That's one deal, right? So anyway, the other thing is China, they're doing a heck of a lot more investing in gold, I know, than what is coming up on, the statistics, the Western statistics. They're buying a lot of gold on the side, basically, avoiding where it's actually showing up on numbers. But on the other side of the deal with China, they got a lot of problems with their banking system, including their shadow banking system. And since they're the second biggest economic power in the world, right? Now, this is the representation of China on the bike, It's kind of like, that's China, man. All right? So anyway, I don't want to be putting a picture of a country up there and stuff. This is a Chinese representation. But anyway, the Chinese are actually, with the shadow banking system, they went so far ahead in a bubble as far as construction. You could see what happened. They got they try to make a new model of France, another model of Disneyland, and all this other garbage are just sitting out there. It takes like 18 years of work to just pay for the principal of a house in China or something. That's what it was at the bubble. It's coming down. So if something happens in China, it's like you don't know what the catalyst is going to be. But man, it's like we're on a rocky precipice where things can actually come down without playing a doom and gloom card. I'm just telling you reality. So if China goes down really bad, it'll take the rest of the world with him. That's the way it goes, man. So it's reality, okay? This is why you should be hanging on with that damn gold and silver, but not just gold and silver, but also food, fuel, and firepower, right? Anyway, the European Union is going to probably remain strong. Here's a European Union banker sitting on the back of some bike with his assistant, and he's getting around in style, These bald-head buzzards actually know a couple things once in a while. But anyway, I should mention something, too. I mentioned about, the U.S. having the most gold, but if you actually take Germany, France, and Italy put together, they're like Germany's second, Italy is third, and France is fourth. Italy and France are about the same. But if you take Germany, France, and Italy together, they got more gold than the U.S. Even though Germany's gold is sitting over in the U.S., that's the other problem. But I want to mention something else about this deal with Europe while we're sitting here looking at this, European biker hauling around a bankster on her bike. They stopped buying all the damn treasuries, right? I call them the damn treasuries. The toilet paper, the U.S. government bonds and stuff. China stopped doing that. After Russia stopped doing it, because basically China does the same damn thing as Russia, right? So Russia's been divesting itself away from the dollar, and China did the same thing. Well, it turns out Belgium is buying them up. But Belgium don't really have the money for it. So what's really going on, it's like they're acting as a front man for something else. So I think what's going on there is, like, even though we say, by announcement that QE has ended, QE is actually probably going even far more than it was before. It's just that it's being done through Belgium, and Belgium's being the front man. They're buying the bonds. This is not something where I'm stretching the imagination. Somebody is really taking up the slack for both China and Russia, especially China, a lot. So that's why they did, everything didn't crash yet and the interest rates didn't go up. Because we got a sneaky way QE is actually going much stronger than before. But so far the metals aren't doing nothing, but it's only going to take one catalyst to bring them up. Now the other thing is, there's a lot of stuff going on, I know, out west. And they're talking about, in case of catastrophic failure of the U.S. economy, they got all these underground secret bases and stuff. And actually, I'm going to put something out about this later because I'm going to bring out some common sense things these yo-yos aren't bringing out about some of this stuff, about the wild stories about, reptilians and aliens living underground. And I'm going to bring out a couple common sense things on a future video about this deal because I'll entertain the thought that it's a possibility, but I'm going to bring out some other questions, and you figure out that, this deal that they're dramatizing about all this stuff going on out west is a lot more drama than you think. Underground, I think a lot of it's true, but then again, there's stories that are way overblown. Just want to point out something now. Besides, out west, a lot of that stuff exists with the underground bases and stuff. But in Florida, this allegedly is the place where the least of that type of stuff exists, and you can kind of figure why, because it's sandy soil and aquifers that run deep, and there isn't any natural cave systems under Florida really the way it is out west, like you might find in the state of Utah. Probably has the most of them. So anyway, I just want to bring that point out for the conspiracy buffs, because actually that stuff is not, I think it's reality, but there's too many exaggerations and curveballs being thrown at us. I'm going to address that topic. But in the case of a collapse, the default government may be run from underground. Who knows? By the military, right? I don't know if this deal is coming up the way they say it is, but it's like we got too many different areas where this could be a problem coming up. And talking about the lizard people, here's the Florida answer for the lizard people. You just glue a gator on the front of your motorcycle, and you just hit the throttle, full throttle, and you go bite them right back. You know what I mean? So we got our answer to the lizard people. We got gators. So anyway, I guess if you never saw a gator or a crocodile, you would be freaking out too. But a good 45 to the head will knock them down. So if there's any kind of stuff like that coming up, we can take care of it. But anyway, I know the Fed is also telling you the economy is like doing great. It's moving ahead fast. We're gonna, basically like this bike. We're just going on to unprecedented prosperity. But to tell you the truth, man, I like painting this doom and gloom picture, but I'm telling you reality. Actually, they got this thing they call, well, it's a nickname. It's a nickname. I'm not gonna put the damn chart up here or nothing like that. But basically, it's a nickname. You take the inflation index and the unemployment index and you add them together, and that's called the misery index, right? And that makes sense. Unemployment and inflation, that's bad. If there's unemployment and the prices are not going up, it's not as bad. If you know what I mean. So if you add those two things, it's actually way worse today than it was back in the late 70s when they had the stagflation. It's way worse then. It's even now, the misery index official numbers are worse than what happened during the Great Depression in the 1930s. And even though they're talking like, hey, we're on to good times, we're going to have a super flaming burnout economy going ahead full steam and unprecedented prosperity, that's what they're painting. The reality is, a lot of these times, these recessions, like if we get into a depression, which we probably are. I hate to say it, but we probably are. And that doesn't mean you want to have a depression attitude. That's the difference. You don't want to have a depression attitude. But from like 1870 to 1899 or 1900, that was the longest depression. And the other depression was around 1929 to 1941. So they kind of kept it alive a little longer with all their monetary policies. But considering we got more people on food stamps and stuff like that, I mean, that's the 21st century soup kitchen, the food stamps, right? That's why it's not being felt as much. There's probably more stuff going on today than there ever was. But it's actually encouraging people not to work, and it's also causing a big halt to the economy, It's almost like a slowdown, like taking this umbrella here, and it's, you're holding it and trying to go against the wind, and you got this parachute on your back. Basically, by having these grain dole being issued to all these people through food stamps and stuff, it's just stopping the economy, stopping it cold. This Jaguar is our old economy here, man, and it's just being stopped cold by garbage. And it's like, where we got going on is this policy basically is causing people not to do or die. Do or die. That's really how it used to be. Work or you don't eat. Now it's like if you don't have work, we give you food stamps. I mean, it's a nice thing, but sometimes when you have that pressure on you, work or you don't eat. Well, guess what? People will find things to do. Now, the other thing is, and we saw what I'm going to expect is the dollar starts losing its world reserve currency status. No, I don't think the dollar's going to oblivion. See, this is where I'm differing from these yo-yos about total, complete financial collapse. I don't think this is going to be the situation. I think what we saw years ago would happen to Great Britain from basically, when they lost the world reserve currency status of the British pound and them as a global power, and they still are a global power. But let me put it this way. I think that's just what's going to happen with the United States. It's like the power is going to be diminished, but is the United States not going to be important in the future? It will be important in the future. It will be. It's just that the power is going to be diminished. This is all planned, though. But I do expect even though there's all these garbage well, it's not rumors, but they're talking about $1.70 gasoline. I talked about this stuff on another video about, natural gas is now being produced, actually in production, not theory, not scientific experiments, but in production, but not in mass quantity, but it's actually not in the theory stage. It's being done now by smaller companies where they're producing liquid fuel from natural gas, and the end product costs about $1.70 a gallon. But that's not going to come online fast enough. And in the interim, we could have some serious spikes in gasoline prices, like, a girl here is getting ready to fill up. So that's going to be another problem that's going to be coming down the road, and you should be ready for it. I have some diesel fuel storage and stuff, and I don't have a diesel car, I have diesel generators, and that stuff may come in handy. It might be worth more than gold, and in far as price moving up. Now, the other thing is, we got Russia. Now Putin, I can tell you this, I think that the West wants Putin dead. It's the leadership in the West wants Putin dead. He's not playing ball with the New World Order, but that doesn't mean Putin's a good guy. He wants to actually have another independent state in Ukraine. And he wants the Ukrainian government to stop fighting the rebels, or whatever you want to call them, or the Russian nationalists and all that type of stuff. And his leverage is going to be not giving him any more gas from Gazprom or fuel. 50% of the gas from Ukraine comes from Russia. That'll collapse the government. Believe me, that'll collapse the government. And I tell you the truth, I don't think Putin's going to stop at that deal. Even though people sometimes get mad at me for saying that, comparing him with Hitler, it's almost analogous to that same thing. Maybe he's not exactly the same, but it's like he's not going to stop at that. He's going to want, the whole Soviet bloc back the way it was, and probably go for more. I mean, there's going to be no end. There's going to be no end to this deal. So, but he's got the gas, and what I'm thinking is, I think they're going to pull a rabbit out of the hat, and they're going to have the Western powers from the United States are going to be able to export gasoline products. I know they can do it on a limited basis now, but it's pretty much not the case. They're going to be able to export crude oil products and it might be subsidized to Ukraine, and it might even be subsidized by the American taxpayer. What else is new, right? The Ukrainians can't pay for it. They'll say, "Oh, we got to stop Putin." And so who makes the money off of that deal? The big oil companies, and who pays for it? The American taxpayer, whoever's left paying taxes. That is. You know how that works. You know what I'm saying with that? In other words, that might be something that happens. I could see them presenting it because it's a sale. It's a sale. And the other deal is, all the Christian stuff. I know a lot of people out there in Christianity are telling you about, well, this is all planned in the Bible, the end times. To tell you the truth, they talked about the end times about 1000 A.D. They talked about the end times. The Jehovah's Witnesses used to talk about the end times before they were Jehovah's Witnesses. They were the Millerites or something. Back in the late 1800s, And then we got Harold Camping talking about the end of the world a couple years ago, and he died with his $75 million intact, right? Now, I don't want to bring up this religion stuff. I know this little biker girl, she must be a real religious buff because she's got a big Jesus cross on her sissy bar and shit. But, it's like, don't even think about that stuff. I mean, yeah, it's one thing to praise God and do your thing and, follow the red words or whatever it is. But, if you get involved in it where it's like a fatalistic approach and you don't do anything and you say, oh, it's God's will, well, that's like a cop-out. You know what I mean? So it's like we got to fight this garbage one way or the other, and the only way to do it is actually to get back to basics. And, the USA is not going to collapse. It's almost like, I swear, I just want to bring this up again. It's almost like what happened to Great Britain. Great Britain is still a powerful global power. Their currency is still the currency of the land, the British pound. It's not like changed that much. They lost their empire, but they didn't really completely lose it. They still have a global presence. They don't have the global reserve currency, but it's still one of the premier currencies of the world, the British pound. It's not the global reserve currency, but it's one of the premier currencies of the world. Kind of expect that's what's going to happen with the U.S. Now, I'm going to tell you what they're going to do in exchange for this freaking using the U.S. global currency as a global reserve currency. They'll have a global world currency, except they'll call it SDRs. And guess who the SDRs are going to be issued by? The IMF and the World Bank. And guess what they'll do? They'll just print them, basically. They'll do the same damn thing. So the problem's not going to end with this bullshit. You know what I mean? It's almost like, oh, we got the elite on a run. This is all running towards the elite plan. They got it this way. We got to go back to like grassroots America, just like this 57 Chevy, man. It's almost like, I'm going to tell you right now, the reason the 50s, the people in the 50s had some balls, and it was like you started seeing investigations of communists and stuff. I know they got kind of extreme, but they used to, you almost saw a big backlash against what was going on. That communist junk was going on in the United States left and right in the 30s. What happened? It was the servicemen coming back from World War II. They became having a lot, in other words, they had a lot more clout, which pushed the politics and the political leaders and stuff to actually have the balls to actually go back to more grassroots America. That's why the 50s, the United States was not screwed up for the most part. It was more like, It was actually from the influence of the servicemen, because they actually had balls from fighting wars. And that's really what it's going to take to fix this deal. It's not getting involved in getting rumors and stuff, but actually having a hands-on approach and going back to, more to grassroots. And you don't need to go back to 1776 and go back to 1957. How's that? Like the Chevy. That's all you got to do. You don't need to go back to 1776. So anyway, my plan is, I know since Putin wants to play push and shove, my plan is, why not just make the European Union part of Moscow? I mean, there's not that much more land that's got to go over here. And I think Moscow's got some of the chicest chicks going, style and stuff like that. I mean, they fit right in, Let Putin ride around here with his horse and be a badass in the rest of Russian land. I mean, I can't see the difference. As long as all the borders are open and there's no big deal about people traveling to and fro, who the hell cares what country it is, you know what I mean? That's one way of looking at it. But for now, it looks like people are going to have to get down and dirty and get things done because, it's like we got so much fluff in the United States where people are afraid to get dirty and do work. In other words, we got people that are bureaucrats, they work in offices. They don't want to do anything with their hands. They don't want to learn any kind of skilled labor and stuff. And actually, that's all it's going to take to turn things around. I mean, you look at what happened in Europe, right? When it got all bombed out in World War II. I mean, that's one reason I kind of respect the Germans a lot, too. Because, I mean, even though the Nazis took over the place and screwed it up, after the Nazis were done, look how fast Germany rebuilt. I know some of it came from U.S. money, but they worked hard. They worked hard. They got dirty and they got things done. So that's the main deal. So we could be riding off into a better future here pretty soon if people start waking up to the fact that you got to actually do something with your hands once in a while. And it's not a matter of playing tiddlywinks and being a bureaucrat for the U.S. government in one way or the other. It's a matter of actually getting down and dirty, doing a job. So, old biker chick is learning how to fix an engine here, and you should too. That's really what it comes down to. But as far as, I'm going to tell you this to sum this deal up, because I kind of threw a lot of stuff out here, because to sum it up, I really am expecting this price of the metals to start taking off pretty fast. But it also depends on how fast they take off. They could take off like a rocket if something happens in the Middle East. If something happens in the Middle East, the metals will get ahead of themselves temporarily again. That won't be the final spike. But it depends on how fast they rise. But even without something happening in the Middle East, I'm expecting the metals to start rising from September on, and now we're talking September 1st is here. So just keep hanging on, because eventually it's going to play out like crazy. Now, I did tell people about palladium many times. That's one metal that was good, and I was being mocked for that crap for a couple years. What's that? Ooh, palladium. Ooh. Yeah, okay. And the more tensions we have with Russia, the more palladium's going to go up. And it don't look like tensions with Russia are backing down. So I think palladium's actually going to be worth more than gold by far. Even though it's up this high, it may retrace some. I think it's going to go up even more. So anyway, that's my silver update, and I try to make this a little more interesting because I read this stuff left and right, and I know people ask me for links, charts. I must read 50 links and 50 charts. I'm not going to sit here for like a week trying to put all that shit together and put it together. I'm just giving you a quick overrun. The information I gave you here is accurate. It is accurate. And it's not overblown, sensationalized. And I'm not telling you something about the sky is falling, but there is a problem. There's no doubt about it. So you're probably going to have to get back to basics, hands-on, and, whatever. Just do your thing, man. Just do your thing and learn new stuff. I mean, I like learning new stuff all the time, too, anyway, so it's cool. Anyway, over and out.